Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. I'm filming today on the day after the longest night of the year, which coincidentally means that this is one of the shortest days. It's also the first day in a very wet month that there's been any blue in the sky, so while there's a brief window of filmable light, let's make the most of it. This is a small river known as Hebden Water, and it's where I played as a child. Where we're going though is somewhere I was warned away from playing. Much later, in adulthood, I learned more about why there was such a warning, and I know what to look out for and how to deal with the potential dangers. More on those later. There are things to find in this stream, bits of pottery and glass and waterfalls, but because of one of the dangers, I hope I don't find too much. Nice piece of transferware. Camera though is struggling to focus. So that was the Canon M50, and I'm back on the GoPro Hero 8 now because I'm still learning how to use the Canon, and I'm not confident enough to use it as the main camera on such a stream where I'm going to have to scramble and climb and splash. Anyway, in summertime this is a little beach, and it's where I got my first start in mudlarking. The pottery that finds its way here originally came out of a dumpsite near the top of the hill, and that dumpsite is capped, securely sealed, because between the 1940s and 1970 it became a receptacle for tons and tons of loose asbestos fibres. I've been checking up on it every now and then over the years, making sure that bottle diggers haven't been there and that the stream hasn't eroded away in. There's still new old pottery sherds being washed down to this beach. It's within the age range and the amount range that I expect. I think that it's taken at least 80 years to travel the 1.3 kilometres down here because of the mills. There's been mills in this area since at least the 15th century, and I know of at least 4 of them that have stood within a 100-metre radius of where I'm currently standing. Fulling mills and cotton mills and dye works, the last of which has only just been demolished. The tiny little stream today provided water for the steam engines that powered 2 of them. Screw-top bottle has been around long enough that it's not necessarily a warning sign, and a lump of iron with some brass attached and some glass wedged in there. It was probably once a gas hob, and I shall take it for the brass. Now that is an unusual piece of pottery. Any ideas what it was? A little bit of aqua-coloured glass, a bit of a sauce bottle, some ironwork, very rusty, and peeking out from under the grass, a little bit of feather-edged plate, and it looks like quite an old style, maybe 18th century, early 19th. I don't find much of it around here. I'm happy with that. I'm in the stream now. It may well be the smallest stream I've ever made the primary focus of a video, and there's a few obstacles that will force me to abandon the stream bed and go around, like those water pipes. Bit of plastic, not a great start. A brick there as well, that's better. I think I was very lucky to grow up around here, as well as there being a lot of beautiful woodland that I still love to walk in. There's a lot of history in the streams and rivers, and so many of them are good to explore. This stream I've been planning to film an exploration of since I began making mudlarking films. I was hoping to do it on a nice late summer day, and maybe include a little unofficial torchlit tour of the last mill standing, which stood empty for nigh on the last decade. But when I drove along the road to drop some Christmas gifts off to my family, I saw that it's now gone. Which is a good lesson that I should do what I can when I can, not waiting for the most perfect weather or other variables, because as example, a mill that stood for 190 years is not guaranteed to stand any longer and can go at any time. It's not the first such location I've made plans to explore and then been thwarted by unexpected change. Another mill burned down. I have been under this little bridge before. Charming though it is, and dating from around 1800 to 1830, it is very low, and my back is a little sore today, so for the time being we'll leave the stream. The houses down there are former mill cottages, and just beyond that telegraph pole there was once a 2-storey mill powered by steam, generated from water from this stream. Part of the mill pond remains as a garden now. I think that little opening in the wall down there is perhaps an outflow to prevent the pond from overflowing, though the only thing I know for sure is that it's still a passageway longer than torchlight could reach when I did an unfilmed exploration last year. And onwards the stream goes for another 10 metres before disappearing under a field, then under this trackway, the road, and then the mill, which is gone. The wall here used to have a large elder tree growing out of it, the flowers of which made a sweet cordial, and the berries a potent wine. I might do some elder foraging again next year. And there used to be a dye-working mill that was in continuous use as such for about 170 years. I can just about see where the stream falls down under the mill. It was built at the tail end of the first wave of the Industrial Revolution, by which time steam power was fairly dominant, and it is to the mill pond which held the water for the steam engines that we're going to next. It already looks fairly dark. I hope my camera's going to manage in the deep dark woods. This trackway went to a loading bay and the offices of the complex, and this path goes up, and away. This was the first block of the place to fall into disuse and disrepair, and 30 years later trees have taken over. I wonder if whatever is planned for this place includes a plan to reclaim that space. Actually, I wonder if anything will actually be developed here. 170 years of chemical industry does somewhat contaminate the soil beneath. Interesting. I hadn't realised before that it was actually built on multiple levels, but then it is a hill, and the builders of the early 19th century had picks and shovels and muscles to move mountains. It would have been quite enough work just flattening parts of the site enough to build on. I understand why it's been fenced off, but I do want to have a look at the structures down there, if I can. Beautiful piece of rust. I think it controlled how much water went to the steam engines. I may be wrong. This here is the why of why it can take pottery pieces more than 80 years to travel 1.3 kilometres down a steep woodland stream. It was once a mill pond, now filled in almost entirely with pebbles and things that came down in the stream, including a lot that washed out of a dump site before it was capped. I don't know how deep it once was, but now it's up to 50 centimetres above the stream level, and the stream sometimes changes course, cutting a bit out of what it's previously built up, releasing some of the bits and pieces that have waited here. I have in the past found doll heads and limbs, a very few intact bottles, and some metal bits and pieces. Fingers crossed for something good to be found today. Merely plain and very stained. Plain. And so faded and washed out it's not particularly appealing. Let's try a bit further on. The course of it does look a little different from the last time I was here. I see some copper wire, tin or nickel coated, but a fair-sized chunk of copper nevertheless. Ooh, almost twice as big as I thought. I'll take it, and I'll take the tartan vinyl, possibly part of a picnic hamper. Little piece with a naive, simplistic style of decoration. I quite like it. Too curved. Do shout out if you see anything interesting. I do miss things occasionally. I like that. I don't even mind that it's so curved, part of a teapot by the looks of it, and I have no craft projects in mind for such curved pieces. But I like it enough to take it anyway. Ridged pottery, piece of the marmalade jar. Nice, bright and vibrant colour. It's not particularly well worn, but nor does it have any sharp edges left. I think I'll take it. Ooh, I see some more copper. Well, no, I can't see the copper, but I can see the copper carbonate, perhaps a hint of copper chloride, wrapped around a wrapped up bundle of copper wire. Very nice. It's maybe 250 grams, so currently about £1 to £2 sterling scrap value, about $1.35 to $2.70 US. I seem to be one of the only YouTubing mudlarkers who collects every piece of copper or brass I find. I can understand why that's the case. It's not historically significant or especially beautiful. But even if I didn't have a forge, I find so much of it I'd probably still collect it for the scrap value. There are of course historically interesting bits of copper and brass, and I do have a few pieces that I have no desire to melt down. Thick, almost black glass, bottom of probably a beer bottle, mid to late 19th century I reckon. A bit of plastic, which I'll remove. Aside from the extensive dry bits, that's pretty much the extent of the mill pond. I think I'd like to come back here with a metal detector one day, before the site is redeveloped. The stream from here up to the tree line runs straight, narrow and fast, so I shall walk beside it, and if I spot anything interesting I'll try to get it. But I don't think there'll be much. Not in this stretch, nor in the whole stretch up to the top. So, that shot of the camera going through a waterfall wasn't entirely intentional. I kinda slipped and almost fell in. I got a bit soggy, but not as much as the camera did, and although I shook it vigorously afterwards to try to dislodge the water from the microphone, the water stubbornly remained, deadening the sounds of water and nature from some of the footage of the climb up. The first interesting find in 200 metres. Not sure. Is it out of a watercolour paint set for mixing paint with water, or a lens designed to whiten a light source? Any other ideas, anyone? Stick. The first marginally worrying sign, vintage plastic that could be from the dump, and from a time that should be capped off. I started another recent video from this point. If you haven't seen it already, it's got one of the best sunsets I've seen, and I managed to capture some of how special it was. The light is fading fast. I am going to keep going up and make a visual check on the dump site to make sure it's still well sealed. This little bridge is at least 200 years old, and I cannot find any records that say when it was made, so it could be much older. The route certainly has use as a pack horse trail that predates the mills. Bit of pottery, handle of a teacup. Actually, yep, it's got a bit of gilt, so I found gold. I'll leave it though, as it would take tons of broken gilt pottery and an awful lot of work to extract a single gram of gold. It's the roughness of the cut of these stones that suggests to me this bridge is quite likely 300 to 500 years old. Some of the packhorse bridges in the area are suspected of being 1,000 years old. That pottery looks like it's coming out of the soil, which means that either not all of the dump site is capped, or it's not really related to the official bounds of the dump site, and I haven't gotten to the capped bit yet, so I'd guess the latter, or perhaps swept down by the stream before the dump was capped and buried here at the stream side by decades of plant growth and decay. This is the start of where it's capped and held back from sliding into the stream by a double row of gabions. It's all looking intact so far. I guess it might seem like an odd thing to do. I have no official role in maintaining the cap on this dump site, so checking it out periodically and making sure it's okay is really just for my own peace of mind, although I would of course report any problems I find. When I was growing up, a friend of my mother's was slowly dying because she'd worked for a few weeks in the factory that made this mess. It's a very sad tale. The largest industrial tragedy in the whole UK has killed hundreds so far, and some are still living with a death sentence because of reckless endangerment perpetrated of a notorious 3 acres mill site in Pecketwell, West Yorkshire. Hello moon, risen so soon. I'm happy to see that the hillside is undisturbed. That's my inspection finished for another year. The defences are holding strong and I don't think any asbestos is leaking out here. There's still problems, like more plastic than previous years. The trees planted on the dump site were planted within plastic sheaves to keep deer from eating them, and the trees are doing well. But as is so often the case with tree planting operations, there was never any plan put in place to collect the plastic sheaves when the trees no longer needed them, and slowly they fall away, tumble down the hill and into the water. I've pulled out 4 today. Might have to try petitioning the administrators of the site to do a collection of them, or allow one to be organised. Nearing the top now, the place where the stream emerges from under the roadway and the little village that it flows beneath. I still have a bit of a climb left because I parked on the Tops Road, hoping to time my arrival there at sunset time. I think I've missed the best of it now, but we'll see. Yes, just missed the time when everything glows and the sky is looking ridiculous. About as fake as a sky can possibly look. I will not use any subtle effects in editing to make it look more or less fake. What you'll see is the unfiltered camera interpretation of what there is to see. I might try to lighten up some of the later woodland shots though, so you can actually see something. My eyes are much better at low light than the GoPro. This ditch with running water is a new addition to this field, and the turned over earth looks interesting. There's pieces of pottery in it and glass, and I've seen a few bits that look like clay pipe pieces. It doesn't appear on any map as a dump site, but this road has been here for hundreds of years, and every little thing that people casually chucked over the wall didn't just magically disappear. Roundup time. I chose to do a video in that little stream for a variety of reasons. The main reason though is because there is sometimes good value in not having to deal with something, and the something I mean is a lengthy clean-up process of finds, which for some outings takes a few days of soaking and a lot of scrubbing. I wanted to find very few finds because I was fast running out of time to make a video in time for my slow, fortnightly upload schedule, having recently exhausted my stack of videos that I shot in spring and summer, and not being able to film during most of autumn because of COVID-19 rules and bleak wet weather. There was a break in the interminable rain this week too, a bit of snow instead, but happily I did manage to get out and film at the big old dump site, and that video will be next. Beyond that, I hope there will be more little patches of good weather where the rivers aren't raging and the light isn't flat and dull, and also that the COVID-19 situation around here improves. Further lockdowns are possible, and indeed looking quite likely. Finds-wise, there really wasn't much in that stream, and that's exactly as it's meant to be. In the mill pond and below, I found a few nice bits of pottery for crafts. One curious piece, salt-glazed stoneware, that looks as though it used to have another 2 bits sticking out, like the Y shape in the flux capacitor in Back to the Future. Enigmatically, it has 8 on 2 of its facets. Does anyone recognise what it might have come from? I was wrong about the brass and iron thing. I thought it was probably a little gas hob, but with most of the rust knocked off, it's more obvious that it had pipes going out both ends, and may have had a dial, or might have just been a junction box for gas and wires. Goes to show that my guesses are just that, sometimes right, but often wrong. The rest of my finds were copper wire, far too much plastic, and the peace and enjoyment that comes from being out wandering in nature. My roundups now include thanks as a feature, and I do have so much to be thankful for. Thanks as ever to everyone who's liked, disliked, commented, shared and subscribed. It all helps not just my channel, but all the Mudlarking channels. We've become a bit of a symbiotic community, and the successes of one helps other channels to grow. A huge thank you to everyone who supported me through Ko-fi. Only one person responded to the question of whether I should put the names of those people up here, and he or she prefers to remain anonymous. Anonymous or not, the kindness I receive there makes a huge difference. The kindness that pours in through my Amazon wishlist too is bringing dreams and ideas close to fruition. So, a huge thank you to Rosalind Phillipson, who again and again has gifted things that will be helpful to me in making craft videos. And this time she has bought a 5-litre bottle of PVA glue. This, plus all the cardboard that comes with every delivery, equals anything my imagination and yours can think of. Suggestions are welcome. Rosalind also bought this set of drill bits and wrenches, which means I now have the right tools for drilling through a lot of materials, and it's going to be very helpful. She also bought this Mod Podge starter kit. I've seen Mod Podge used in so many craft videos, but never had any myself until now. Thank you so much, Rosalind. You're wonderfully kind. Another huge thank you is owed to Rebecca O'Lynn, who bought me these steel toe-capped shoes, the last bit of safety gear I needed for my forge, now just a nice dry day away from being fired up for the first time. She also bought me a rope for my magnet fishing magnet. Magnet fishing is also just a nice dry day away from happening. She also bought some snap-off blades for my craft knife, which are very useful. I go through about a pack of these each year. And she also bought me this stack of storage boxes, which are incredibly useful for keeping workspaces tidy. The more varied the projects I plan to do, the more tools and materials need to be acquired, and it's so easy for them all to become a big mess that gets in the way of actually doing the projects, so storage boxes are essential. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I hope 2021 brings good things for you. A third huge thank you to Barbara Hallsmark, who sent a rather lovely package of Canadian sea glass, which will be helpful in a particular craft project I'm planning, along with some beads made of sea glass and an offer to send more of them if they might be liked by Mudlarking with Kit and Caboodlers. This pack of Barkeeper's Friend arrived anonymously. I wanted them because they come highly recommended for cleaning bottles out of dump sites, and anything that might make that task easier is worth trying. Thank you, whoever bought it. Thanks also to whoever it was that bought this A1 cutting mat, for the times when the thing to be cut is bigger than the A3 cutting mat that someone else kindly bought me. That one has been very useful, and this one will be too, so thank you. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you'd like to, then any way you choose to show appreciation is very much appreciated. The options are leaving a like, a comment, sharing the video, subscribing. If you subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of new releases. A further option, never an obligation, is to buy me a hypothetical coffee through Ko-fi or something off my Amazon wishlist, both of which propel me faster towards some of the videos that I would like to make. I hope that 2021 proves to be a much brighter year for everyone. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.